Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you all are doing well. This is Jack from byprogrammers.com and welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Code React Native. In this episode, we are going to continue to build the third and final part of our food delivery app. In the previous episode, we have accomplished the onboarding screen, the sign-in screen, sign-up, OTP authentication screen, as well as the password recovery screen. Now in this episode, which is the third and final part of this project, we are going to build the food detail screen over here, my cart, my carts, add new cart, checkout, payment successful screen, delivery status, as well as the map view. Alright, now with that being said, let's get started. Just like in previous episode, instead of creating the project from scratch, we have actually prepared a star template so that it will be a lot easier for you guys to follow along. Or if you have been following this project since part 1 or 2, you can continue from there as well, just that you might need to set up the navigation a little bit. Alright, so head over and download the star template and you should be able to get this. As usual, the first thing we need to do is to open up the terminal and run npm install. After that, we need to run npx react native link. And lastly, we need to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, so that's all we need to do. Now cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, so as you can see here, the star template basically includes the assets, the constants, and also a couple of empty screens over here that we'll be working on shortly. If you are coming from part 1 or 2, you can reuse the components that we built earlier. If not, don't worry, you can still follow along this video as we are going to build most of the things from scratch. Alright, so the first screen that we are going to build is the food detail screen over here. Okay, now head back to the source code in the screens folder, open up the food folder and the fooddetail.js file. We are going to import a couple more components from React Native. We need view, text, image, and also the scroll view. Alright, after this we need to import from constants. We need fonts, we need colors, we need sizes, we need icons, images, and also the dummy data. Let me hide the terminal, like that. Okay, now let's take a look at the mock. For the food detail screen, we can mainly divide it into 3 different sections. The first section we have here is the header section, followed by the body section over here, and lastly we have the footer section. Alright, so go back to the source code. Over here for the container view, we are going to give it a background color of white, like that. And within this container view, we will have 3 main sections, which are the header section, followed by the body section, and lastly we have the footer section. Now for the header section over here, since we are going to use it in multiple different screens, we are going to create a standalone component for this section over here. Alright, so go back to the source code and let me hide these folders. Over here in the root directory, we need to create a new folder called components. Within the components folder, we are going to create a new file called header.js. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view and we need text. Alright, and also we need to import from constants, we need fonts, like that. Alright, and over here, we can then create the header functional component. So constant header equals to, for this component, we are going to be taking in a few props which are container style, title, title style, left component, and also the right component. Let me arrange it properly, like that. Alright, now followed by arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default header as well. Alright, so for the header component, we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, where the height equals to 60, flags direction equals to row, and we are going to sort of inject the container style over here like this. Now within this container view, we are going to render the left component over here. Alright, so the left component followed by the title component, and lastly we have the right component. Okay, so we have left component followed by the title component, and we are going to wrap it inside a view, give it a bit of styling. Flags equals to 1, align items equals to center, and justify content equals to center as well. Now within this view, we are going to render the text component. Here it's going to be title, and give it a bit of styling. The fonts should be equals to H3, and we are going to inject the title style over here as well. Alright, and lastly we have the right component, just like that. Okay, save it. Now don't forget, we need to include the header component in the index.js file as well. So head over to your components folder, create a new file called index.js. Alright, over here we are going to import from header like that, and we are going to export it over here. Alright, save it. Now head back to the food detail screen. At the top over here, we are going to import from components, and we are going to import header like that. Alright, so for the header section, we are going to create a new function called render header, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render header, and we are going to return the header component that we have just created, right? So the title is going to be details, and the container style is going to be height 50, margin horizontal equals to sizes.padding, and margin top equals to 40. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have the title in place. Next, we are going to work on the left component. And in order to achieve something like this, we are going to create a new component called icon button. This is so that we can reuse it in the other screens as well. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called icon button. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need touchable opacity and also image. Alright, and lastly we need to import from constants, and we need colors. Okay, now we can then create the icon button functional component. So constant icon button, and for this component we are going to tag in 4 props, which are container style, icon style, and also onPress, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default icon button as well. Alright, so for the icon button, we are going to return a touchable opacity like that, and for the style, we are going to simply inject the container style like this. Alright, next for the onPress is going to be onPress. Now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render an image, alright, where the source equals to icon, and the style will be width 30, height 30, then color equals to colors.white, and we are going to include the icon style as well, like that. Okay, save it. Same thing, we need to include the icon button component in the index.js file as well. Right, so over here we need to import from icon button. We need to import the icon button, and we need to export it over here. Alright, save it. Now go back to food detail screen. In the header component over here, we need to supply the left component prop like that. And for the left component, we are going to render the icon button. Alright, where the icon equals to icons.back, and the container style, width will be 40, height will be 40, justify content equals to center, align items equals to center as well. Border width equals to 1. Border radius equals to sizes.radius. And lastly, the border color equals to colors.gray2. Alright, next for the icon style. Alright, the width is going to be 20, height equals to 20, and the tint color equals to colors.gray2. Alright, and whenever we click on this button, I would like to simply console log back like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, so after the back button, next we are going to work on the shopping cart button over here. And if you pay close attention to the shopping cart icon, there is actually a number over here located at the top right corner of the icon to tell you the number of items you have in the cart. Alright, so in order to make things easier for us to update the figure, we are going to create a new component called cart quantity button. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called cart quantity button, like that. Alright, so for this component, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and we need view, we need touchable opacity, we need image, and also we need text. Alright, next we need to import from constants, and for this we need colors, we need fonts, we need sizes, and also icons. And lastly, we can then create the cart quantity button functional component. So constant cart quantity button, and for this component we will be receiving 4 props, which are container style, icon style, quantity, and also unpressed, like that, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Alright, don't forget we need to export default cart quantity button over here. Alright, so for the cart quantity button component, we are going to wrap everything within the touchable opacity, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Width equals to 40, height equals to 40 as well. Align items equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. Border radius equals to sizes.radius. Background color equals to colors.light orange 2. And lastly, we will include the container style over here. Alright, so the onPress equals to onPress. And now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render an image component where the source equals to icons.cart, style will be width 20, oops, should be 20, height 20 as well, tint color equals to black, and we are going to include the icon style over here, like that. Alright, now just to see if it works, I'm gonna save it, and same thing, we need to head over to the index.js file. We need to import the cart quantity button over here. So cart quantity button, to import it over here, and we need to export it over here. Alright, save it. Now go back to the food detail.js file. Over here, we are going to include the right component. And for the right component, we will be, oops, I need to import it over here first. We need to import the cart quantity button component over here, and we will render it as the right component, like that. Okay, and we will supply the quantity prop with a random number of 3. Save it. Okay, cool, so the cart button is indeed showing. All we need to do now is to work on the numbers over here. Alright, so go back to the cart quantity button component. Underneath the image component over here, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Position should be equals to absolute. Top equals to 5. Right equals to 5. Height equals to 15. Width equals to 15 as well. Align items equals to center. Justify content equals to center as well. And the border radius equals to sizes.radius, and lastly the background color equals to colors.primary. Alright, now within the view component, we need to render the text component like this. Alright, so over here is going to be quantity. Give it a bit of styling as well. color equals to white, and the font equals to body 5. Just that I would like to override the line height to 0 and the font size to 10, like that. Save it. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the header section. Next we'll move on to the body section over here. Now before we proceed to work on the UI, we need to first create a state to hold the foot item object. Alright, so go back to your source code in the foot detailed screen, scroll to the top over here. Alright, we need to create a state, right? So constant foot item, set foot item equals to react.useState, and for this I'm going to hard code it to dummy data dot veggie biryani, like that. Alright, if you are coming from part 102, you can make use of the route.params to get the selected foot item instead of hard coding it over here. The idea is pretty much the same, right? Okay, now go back to the mock. Within the body section, we have two main sections, which are the foot detail section over here and followed by the restaurant section over here. Okay, so go back to your source code over here. Within the body section, I'm gonna create a scroll view for this. Alright, now within the scroll view, we have the foot detail section and followed by the restaurant section, like that. So for the foot detail section, I'm gonna create a new function called render detail. Alright, I'm gonna create this function over here. So function render details, and we are going to return something, right? So for this, we need a container view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Margin top equals to sizes.radius. Margin bottom equals to sizes.padding. Padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding as well. Alright, now within this container view, the first thing we are going to render is the food cart section. So for the food cart section, we have the calories, we have the favorite icon, and lastly we have the food image itself. Alright, so go back here. The first section we are going to render is the food cart section. So for the food cart section, we need a container view. Same thing, give it a bit of styling. Alright, height equals to 190, border radius equals to 15, and background color equals to colors.light gray 2. Now within the food cart section, we have the calories and favorite section. Alright, so for this, we need another view. Give it a bit of styling as well. Flags direction equals to row. Justify content equals to space between. Margin top equals to sizes.base, and padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius. Alright, so over here we have the calories and followed by favorite, which is basically these two components over here. Okay, so for the calories, we will render a view component like that. Give it a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row, and within this view, we are going to render an image component where the source equals to icons.calories. Style will be width 30 and height 30 as well. And after the calorie icon, we are going to render the text component. So for this, we are going to render food item dot calories and followed by the calories. Okay, give it a bit of styling. Color equals to colors.dark gray 2, and the fonts will be body 4. Alright, now save it. Okay, so we have the food cart section over here, we have the calorie section over here. Next we'll move on to the favorite section. Alright, so for the favorite section, we will simply render an image component, and the source will be icons.love, and the style will be width 20, height 20, and for the thin color, if the food item is favorite equals to true, then we are going to render colors.primary. If it's not, then it's going to be colors.gray, like that. Alright, save it. I think we need a bit of margin over here, so Oh, actually I did specify the margin, just that I have a bit of typo over here. So margin top equals to sizes.base. Alright, a lot better now. Okay, so after the calories and favorite section, next we can then render the food image itself, right? So for the food image, we will simply need to render the image component. The source will be food item dot image, like that. Resize mode equals to contain, and the style will be height 170 and width equals to 100%. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so after the food cart section, next we are going to work on the food info section over here. Alright, so after the food cart section over here, we are going to work on the food info section. So for the food info section, we need a view as well, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Margin top equals to sizes dot padding. Alright, so over here, the first thing we need to render is the name of the dish and also the description, right? So we need a text component that is going to render the food item dot name, and the style will be H1, like that. The font will be H1, I'm sorry. Save it. Okay, so we have the name in place. Next, we are going to render the description, right? So same thing, we need the text component as well. And over here, we are going to render food item dot description, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Margin top equals to sizes dot base, color equals to dark gray, like that. Text align should be justify, and the font will be body tree. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, so after the name and description of the food, next we need to work on the info section over here. Alright, so we have the rating section, we have the duration section, and also the shipping section over here. And if you take a look at these three components, they are actually very similar, which is basically the icon on the left and followed by the label on the right. So for that reason, I'm going to create a standalone component called icon label. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called icon label, like that. Same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need view, we need image, and also we need text. Alright, now over here we need to import from constants, and we need fonts and also sizes, like that. Alright, now we can then create the icon label functional component. So a constant icon label, and for this component we will be receiving I would say 5 props. So container style icon, icon style, label, and label style. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, as usual, we need to export default icon label over here. Alright, so for the icon label component, the first thing we need to do is to return a container view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Flags direction should be equals to row, padding vertical, padding vertical equals to sizes dot base, padding horizontal equals to sizes dot radius, border radius equals to sizes dot radius, and also we need to include the container style over here as well. Alright, now within this view we need to render the image component, where the source equals to icon, and the style will be width 20, height 20, and we will include the icon style over here like this. Okay, now after the image component, we need to render the text component. So for the text component, it's going to be label, give it a bit of styling, margin left equals to sizes.base, and the fonts will be body tree. And of course, we need to include the label style over here as well, just like that. Alright, now save it. Same thing, we need to include the icon label in the index.js file as well. So I'm going to copy, paste it like this, and I'm going to change it to icon label, and we need to export it over here. Alright, save it. Now head back to the food detailed screen. After the name and description section over here, we are going to render the ratings, duration, and also the shipping section, right? So for this, we need another view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, and margin top equals to sizes.padding. Alright. Oh, and don't forget we need to import the icon label over here as well. Alright, so we need to import icon label. Alright, so go back to the rating section over here. So on the left we have the rating section, right? So here we have the rating section followed by the duration, and lastly we have the shipping, right? So we have rating, duration, and shipping. Okay, so for the rating section, we will render the icon label component like that. The container style is going to be background color, colors.primary. Icon equals to icons.star. Label equals to 4.5. Label style equals to color is going to be white. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So the ratings icon label is in place. Next, I'm gonna just simply copy and paste it over here since they are the same component. Alright, so for the duration icon label, I'm gonna remove the background color property and change it with margin left, sizes.radius, and also padding horizontal equals to 0. The icon is going to be icons.clock, and the label is going to be 30 minutes, and the icon style is going to be tint color, colors.black. And for this icon label, we don't need the label style prop, so simply remove it and save it. Perfect. So we have the ratings, we have duration, and lastly will be the shipping. Alright, same thing. I'm going to just simply copy and paste it over here. I'm going to change the icon to icons.dollar and the label to free shipping, like that. Perfect. Alright, next we are going to work on the sizes section over here, and in order to achieve this, we will be creating a standalone component called text button. Alright, so go back to your source code in the components folder, create a new file called text button. Right, so for this, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need touchable, opacity, and also we need text, right? And over here we need to import from constants, and we need fonts, and also we need colors. Alright, and lastly we can then create the text button functional component. So constant text button, and we need a few props for this component. We need button container style, we need label style, and also we need press. Alright, so after this we have the arrow function, and don't forget we need to export default text button over here. Alright, so now within the text button component, we are going to return a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling. Align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, background color equals to colors.primary, and lastly we need to include the button container style as well. Alright, and over here the onPress equals to onPress. Alright, now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the text component. Alright, so over here it's going to be label, give it a bit of styling, color equals to white, and the fonts equals to H3, and lastly we'll be including the label style over here as well. Alright, now save it. Don't forget we need to include it in the index.js file, so I'm going to simply copy and paste and change it to text button, and we need to export it over here as well. Alright, so go back to your food detailed screen, scroll to the top, don't forget we need to import the text button over here. Alright, so we need to import text button from the components, and now go back to the rating section, which is over here. Alright, so underneath the rating section, alright, so over here we are going to render the sizes section, right? So over here, we are going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling, flags direction equals to row, margin top equals to sizes.padding, and lastly the align items should be equals to center, like that. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render the sizes label and followed by the text buttons over here. Alright, so we have the sizes label, so we need a text component. Over here is going to be sizes, and the style will be fonts equals to h3, like that. Save it. Alright, so after the text component, we are going to work on the text buttons component. But before that, we need to render a container view first. Give it a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row, flags wrap equals to wrap, and margin left equals to sizes.padding. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to use the map method to render the sizes over here. Alright, so dummy data dot sizes dot map, we have item index followed by the arrow function, and over here we are going to return the text button component that we have just created. The key is going to be sizes dash index. Now whenever you use the map method to render components, you need to make sure you have supplied the key prop, right? Or else you will have performance issue. Okay, so button container style, width equals to 55, height equals to 55 as well, margin equals to sizes.base, border width equals to 1, border radius equals to sizes.radius, and the border color equals to colors.gray2. Alright, now for the label, it's going to be item.label, and the label style color is going to be colors.gray2 as well, and the fonts is going to be body2, like that. Alright, save it. Oops, I'm gonna overwrite the background color to null, like that, to get rid of the background color, like that. Okay, alright, so the sizes section is in place. Next, what we need to do is that we need to keep track of the selected size, right? So in order to do that, we need to first create a state over here. Alright, so constant selected size, set selected size equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be an empty string, like that. Okay, so go back to the sizes section. Over here, whenever we click on this text button, alright, so whenever we click on it, I'm gonna set the selected size to item.id, and over here, if the selected size equals to item.id, then the border color is going to be primary. If it's not, then it will be gray2. Alright, I'm gonna copy this. For the background color, if the selected size equals to item.id, then the color is going to be primary, or else it's going to be null, which means no background color, right? And lastly, for the label style, over here, if the selected size equals to item.id, then the color is going to be white, or else it's going to be gray2. Alright, save it. Now we should be able to select the size. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the food details section. Okay, next we'll be working on the restaurant section over here. And if you pay close attention to the mark, we have two line divider over here, right? Before and after the restaurant section. So for that reason, I'm going to create a standalone component for the line divider. Alright, so go back to your source code and the components folder, create a new file called line divider. Alright, so we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need view, and that's all we need. Next, we need to import from constants, and we need to import colors. Alright, next it will be the functional component itself, so constant line divider, and for this component we will be taking in only one prop, which is the line style, followed by arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default line divider. Oops, a bit of typo over here. Yep, export default line divider like that. Alright, so here we are going to return a view like that, give it a bit of styling, height equals to 2, width equals to 100%, and background color equals to colors.lightgray2, and we are going to include the line style over here as well, like that. Alright, save it. Next, we need to include the line divider component in the index.js file. Alright, so over here, I'm gonna simply copy and paste and change it to line divider, and we need to export it over here, save it. Now go back to the foot detail screen at the top. Don't forget we need to import the line divider as well. And now over here, after the foot detail section, I'm going to render a line divider like this. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, now for the restaurant section, I'm going to create a new function called render restaurant, and I'm going to create this function over here. Alright, so function render restaurant, and we are going to return something. Right, now for the restaurant section, we have the restaurant profile on the left, followed by the restaurant name, the distance, and also the ratings on the right. Okay, so over here we will be returning a container view, give it a bit of styling, flags direction equals to row, margin vertical equals to sizes.padding, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding as well, and align items equals to center. Alright, now within this container view, the first component we have here is the image itself, right? So image component, where the source equals to images dot profile, and the style will be width 50, height 50, and border radius equals to sizes dot radius. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have the image in place. Next, it will be the info section. Alright, so for the info section, we need a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Flags equals to 1, margin left equals to sizes.radius, justify content equals to center. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render two text components like that. The first text component is going to be the restaurant name, which is, by programmers. Give it a bit of styling. Fonts will be H3. Alright, save it. Okay, so after the restaurant name, we have the distance, which is 1.2 km away from you. I'm gonna just simply hard code it like that. Give it a bit of styling. The color is going to be colors.gray, and the fonts will be body 4 like that. Alright, save it. And after the info section, we have the ratings section, which is this section over here, right? Now, in order for us not to mess up with the codes we have here in the foot detail screen, I'm gonna create a new standalone component for the ratings section. Alright, so head over to your components folder, create a new file called rating. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, and for this we need view, we need image, and also we need style sheet like that. Alright, after this we need to import from constants, we need icons, and also colors. Okay, next we can then create the rating functional component, and for this component we need 4 props, which are rating, icon style, active color, and the default value is going to be colors.orange. Next we have inactive color, and the default value is going to be light orange 3 like that. Alright, and followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget we need to export default rating as well. And over here, I'm going to make use of the style sheet. The reason being is because all the star icon over here has the same styling properties, right? So over here, we have constant styles equals to style sheet.create, red icon, height will be 15, and width will be 15 as well. Alright, now for the rating component over here, we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, flex direction equals to row, like that. Alright, now within this container view, we are going to render 5 image components, right? So we have image component. The source is going to be icons.star. Style will be, for the thin color, if the rating is more than or equals to 1, then it's going to be active color, right? Which means if the rating is equals to 1, then this first image over here, the thin color is going to be the active color. If it's not, then it's going to be inactive color, like that. And of course, we need to include these red icon style over here, like that, and also the icon style over here. Now all we need to do is to copy and duplicate the image component 4 more times, alright? So 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And now we just need to change the rating to 2, and this one is going to be 3, 4, and 5. That's it. Alright, now save it. Next, we need to include it in the index.js file. Same thing, simply copy. I'm going to change this to rating, and I'm going to export it over here. Next, go back to the foot detail screen, scroll to the top. Over here, we need to import the rating as well. Now, back to the restaurant section. After the info section over here, we are going to render the rating component that we have just created. A rating is going to be, say, 4. Icon style is going to be margin left 3, like that. Save it. Sweet. Okay. Alright, so that's all for the restaurant section. Next, we'll be working on the footer section over here. Alright, so we have a line divider and followed by the footer section. Okay, so go back to your source code. Over here in the footer section, we are going to render a line divider like this. Now don't worry, you can't see the line divider yet. It's because we haven't added in the footer section. Alright, so after the line divider, we are going to render a new function called render footer. Alright, so we are going to create this function over here. Function render footer. Alright, we are going to return something. So for the render footer, we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, height equals to 120, align items equals to center, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding, and padding bottom equals to sizes.radius. Alright, save it. And there you have it, the line divider is showing. Alright, now within the footer section, we have 2 main components. The first one is what we call the stepper input, and next thing over here is actually a text button. Alright, so for the stepper input, we are going to create a standalone component for this. So go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called stepper input, like that. Alright, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view and text. Alright, and after this, we need to import, from components, we need icon button, and also we need to import from constants. We need fonts, colors, icons, and sizes. Alright, next we can then create the stepper input functional component. So constant stepper input, and for this component we are going to take in 4 props, which are container style, value, the default value is going to be want, on add function, and on minus function. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Same thing, don't forget we need to export default stepper input, like that. Alright, so over here we are going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, height equals to 60, width equals to 130, background color equals to colors.lightgray2, border radius equals to sizes.radius, and lastly we are going to include the container style as well. Alright, now within this container view, we have the minus icon button followed by the value, and lastly we have the plus icon button. All right, so over here we have a icon button like that. The container style is going to be width 50, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well. The icon is going to be icons.minus. The icon style is going to be height 25, width 25, and the tint color, if the value is more than 1, then the tint color is going to be primary, or else it's going to be gray. Alright, next we have the on press, and it's going to be on minus, like that. Okay, so we have one icon button on the left. I'm gonna just simply copy and paste it for the one on the right. Alright, so the icon for this is going to be icons.plus, and the tint color is going to be colors.primary, like that. The on press is going to be on at, like that. Okay, now in between these two icon buttons, we are going to render the value. Alright, so to do that, we are going to render a container view first. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well. Now over here, we are going to render the text component. This one is going to be value, and give it a bit of styling. The font is going to be H2. Alright, that's all. Same thing, head back to the index.js file. Over here we are going to import the stepper input, and we need to export it over here. Alright, now go back to the foot detail screen, scroll to the top, make sure to include the stepper input over here. Now navigate to the footer section. Alright, here we have the stepper input, and followed by the text button, right? Like that. So for the stepper input, we are going to render the stepper input component, where the value is going to be 3 for now. Let's see how it works. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to create a state to hold the quantity value, right? So scroll to the top, over here. So we have constant quantity set quantity equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be 1, right? Now go back to the footer section. Over here, the value is going to be quantity, like that, and on add is going to be an arrow function, and we are going to call the set quantity to quantity plus 1, like that, right? So whenever we click on the add button, we will get the current value plus 1 and assign it back to the quantity state, right? So for the on minus, same thing, we have an arrow function, just that this time, if and only if the quantity is more than 1, then we will set the quantity to quantity minus 1. In other words, if the quantity is 0, we will not allow the user to click on the minus button over here. Alright, save it. Okay, now we should be able to add the quantity, and also we should be able to deduct the quantity like this. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so after the stepper input, next we are going to work on this text button over here. In fact, for this component, we can actually reuse the text button component that we have just created for the sizes over here, right? All we need to do is to add a few more props and also additional handling, and we should be good to go. Right? Let's see how we can do that. So go back to your source code. Let me close all the other files first, like this. Close to the right. Now open up the text button component over here. Next, we need to add 2 more props, which are the label2, and the default value is going to be an empty string, and followed by label2style, like that. Now after the text component over here, if the label2 is not equals to an empty string, then we are going to render another text component like this. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, text align equals to right, color equals to white, and the fonts will be H3, and we are going to include the label 2 style over here as well. Label 2 style, like that, right? So over here we are going to render label 2. Alright, now save it. Head back to the foot detailed screen. Over here we are going to render the text button component, right? Where the button container style flex should be equals to 1, flex direction should be equals to roll, height will be 60, margin left is going to be sizes.radius, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.radius as well, border radius is going to be sizes.radius, and lastly the background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, now for the label, the one on the left is going to be buy now and followed by the figures, right? So for the label it's going to be buy now, and for the label 2 it's going to be $15.99, like that. Alright, now save it. Sweet. Alright, so that's all for the foot detail screen. Next we'll move on to the my cart screen over here. Okay, now over here for the buy now button, what I'm going to do is that whenever we click on this button, we would like to navigate. Oops, we need to add the navigation over here. Yep, we need to add the navigation like that. Alright, so whenever we click on the buy now button, we would like to navigate to the my cart screen, like that. Save it. Now whenever we click on the buy now button, we should be able to navigate to the my cart screen. Perfect. Okay, now navigate to the my cart screen located in the cart folder over here. Next we need to import 2 more components from React Native. We need image and also we need style sheet, like that. Alright, after that we need to import from components. We need header, we need icon button, we need cart quantity button, we need stepper input as well, like that. Okay, after that we need to import from constants. We need fonts, sizes, colors, icons, and also dummy data. Alright, okay, so for the my cart screen, we can also basically divide it into 3 different sections. We have the header section, followed by the cart list section, and lastly we have the footer section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, the background color is going to be white. I'm going to remove these text component, and within the container view we have 3 main sections, right? We have the header section, followed by the cart list section, and lastly we have the footer section. Alright, save it. Now for the header section, we are going to render a new function called render header, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render header, and we are going to return the header component that we have built in the foot detail screen, right? So we have the header component, the title is going to be my cart. I'll try to save it. Oops, I need to add the container style as well. So container style, height is going to be 50, margin horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, and margin top is going to be 40. Alright, save it. Perfect. So for the header component, we have left component and right component as well, which is very similar to what we have here in the foot detail screen, right? So we have the back button and followed by the cart button. Okay, now over here we need to supply the left component, and since it's actually the same as what we did in the foot detail screen, I'm gonna just simply copy and paste it from here. Alright, so we have the left component and followed by the right component. So I'm gonna just simply paste it like this. Alright, now save it. Oh, for this I'm gonna change it to navigation. Alright, so whenever I click on this back button, I would like to navigate to the previous screen, like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, so whenever I click on this button, I should be able to navigate to the previous screen. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the header section. Next, we'll move on to the card list section over here. And in order to achieve something like this, where the cell is actually swipeable, we are going to make use of an awesome library called React Native Swipe List View. Alright, so scroll down over here, copy this, go back to your source code, open up the terminal, paste it and hit enter. Alright, next you need to close your app like that, and over here run React Native link, and you will need to cd into iOS and run pod install. Okay, now go back to the root directory and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now navigate to the my card screen. Let me hide the terminal. And there are actually a few things we need to do here. The first thing we need to do is to import the swipe list view from React Native swipe list view, like that. Next, we need to create a state for our card list over here. Alright, so constant my card list set my card list equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be dummy data dot my card. Alright, next we need to render a new function over here for the card list section. Alright, so we need to render card list, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render card list, and over here we are going to return the swipe list view, like that. Alright, so for the data, it's going to be our state, so my card list. Key extractor is going to be item arrow function item.id. Content container style, margin top is going to be sizes.radius. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Padding bottom equals to sizes.padding times 2. Next, I would like to disable right swipe, which means I wouldn't be able to swipe from left to right. I will only be able to swipe from right to left. Okay, so disable right swipe equals to true right open value, which basically means how much space would you like to open, like this. Alright, so it's going to be -75. And for the render item, we have data, row map, like that, arrow function, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, height equals to 100, background color equals to colors.lightgray2. Alright, let me save it first. And just to see if it's working properly, I'm going to render a text component over here, and it's going to render data.item.name. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a style that can be reused for these two components over here. Alright. So scroll down over here. Constant styles equals to style sheet.create. This style is going to be card item container. Alright. Flex direction should be equals to row. Align items should be equals to center. Margin top should be equals to sizes.radius. Padding horizontal should be equals to sizes.radius. And lastly, the border radius should be equals to sizes.radius. Alright. Now go back to the render item prop over here. For the container view, we are going to include the styles like this. Alright, so styles.card item container. Save it. Perfect. So within this cell, the first thing we need to render is the foot image itself, right? So we have the foot image followed by the foot name, the price, and lastly we have the stepper input. Right? So over here, I'm gonna get rid of this. We have the foot image. So for the foot image section, we need a container view like that. Give it a bit of styling. Width equals to 90, height equals to 100, and margin left equals to -10. Alright, now within this foot image view component, we will render an image component like this, where the source is going to be data.item.image. Resize mode is going to be contain, and the style will be width 100%, height 100%, position absolute, top equals to 10. Alright, save it. Now the reason why we need to do a lot of this settings is mainly because these images from the mark actually comes with the shadow and everything. So we need to do a bit of settings over here so that it looks right on the cell, right? So after the foot image, we have the foot info section. So for this, we need a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, like that. Alright, so for this, we need to have two text components, like that. The first one, we are going to render data.item.name. Give it a bit of styling. The fonts should be equals to body tree, like that. Alright, and the second text component, we are going to render a $sign followed by data.item.price. Give it a bit of styling as well. Color is going to be primary, and the fonts will be H3. Alright, save it. Perfect. And lastly, we have the quantity, right? So for this, we are going to make use of the stepper input, like that. Container style is going to be height 50, width 125, and the background color is going to be white. The value is going to be data.item.quantity. Now let me save it first. Sweet. Now all we need to do for the stepper input is to work on the plus and minus button over here. Alright, so after the value prop, we are going to supply the onAdd prop, right, like that. And over here, we are going to create a new function called update quantity handler, like that. And for this function that we are going to create shortly, it will actually tag in two parameters. The first parameter is actually the new quantity, so the new quantity is going to be data.item.quantity plus 1, right? Because I'm adding over here, so I need to plus 1. And the second parameter is the ID, so data.item.id. This is so that we know which cart item that we need to update the quantity later on, right? Now for the onMinus prop, same thing. If the data.item.quantity is more than 1, then we are going to call this function update quantity handler. The first parameter is going to be the new quantity, so data.item.quantity minus 1, and the second parameter is going to be the ID, so data.item.id. Next, we are going to create this function update quantity handler over here. Alright, so we are going to create a handler section like that, and this one is going to be the render section. Alright, so we are going to create the function over here. So function update quantity handler, we need two parameters for this. So first one is going to be new quantity, and the second parameter is the ID, like that. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to make use of map method to, sort of update the quantity and assign it to the new my cart list over here. Alright, so I have let new my cart list. Well, in fact, I can use constant actually, since I'm not going to change it. So new my cart list equals to my cart list dot map. I'm going to use CL, right, arrow function, and over here, if the CL.id is equals to ID, then I'm going to override the quantity of CL like this. Alright, so quantity equals to new quantity, or else I'm going to return CL without changing anything, like that. Alright, so after we have updated the quantity, then I'm going to set my cart list to new my cart list. Alright, now save it. Now if we were to click on the plus button over here, we should be able to update the quantity accordingly, like that. Perfect. Same goes to minus button as well. Sweet. Next, we are going to work on the swipe action as well as the delete button over here. Okay, So head back to the render cardless section over here. We need a new prop. Alright, so after the render item prop, we need a new prop called render hidden item, like that. Alright, same thing, data, row map, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return an icon button for this, right? So the container style is going to be flex equals to 1, justify content equals to flex n, background color equals to colors.primary, and lastly we are going to include the styles like this. So styles.cart item container. Now the icon is going to be icons.delete icon, and the icon style is going to be margin right 10. Alright, now save it. Alright, we should be able to swipe the cell now. Perfect. Sweet. All we need to do now is work on the delete function over here, right? So over here, if I were to click on the delete button on press, then I will call a new function called remove my cart handler, and I'll pass the item ID over like that. Alright, save it. Next, I'm going to create this function over here. Function remove my cart handler. We need one parameter for this function, which is ID. Alright, now the first thing I'm going to do is to duplicate my cart list array. So let new my cart list equals to my cart list. What I'm doing here is actually I'm trying to duplicate my cart list and assign it to this variable over here. Alright, next we need to find the index of this ID in this array. So to do that, new my cart list dot find index cart arrow function cart ID equals to ID, and I'm going to store the index over here. So this one I can use constant index equals to new my cart list dot find index, yeah, like that. Alright, so once I got the index, I'm going to use the splice method to remove the item from the array, right? So new my cart list dot splice index, I'm going to remove starting from this position, and I'm going to remove one item like that. Alright, now I can then set my cart list equals to new my cart list. Okay, save it. Now if we were to click on the delete button, we should be able to get rid of this row over here. Perfect. Sweet. Alright, so that's all for the cart list. Next we'll move on to the footer section over here, and since we need to reuse the footer section over here as well in the checkout screen, we are going to create a standalone component for this. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called footer total, right? And for this, same thing, we need to import from React, we need to import from React Native, we need view, we need text, and also we need platform. Alright, next we need to import from components, we need text button, and followed by line divider like that, right? And lastly, we need to import from constants as well. We need fonts, sizes, and colors, right? Next, we can then create the footer total functional component. So constant footer total equals to, and for this component, we will be taking in 4 props, which are subtotal, shipping fee, total, and also unpressed, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something, right? Don't forget we need to export default footer total as well, like that. And for the footer total component, if you pay close attention to the mark, you can actually see that there is a slight gradient over here, and in order to achieve this, we are going to make use of a library called React Native Linear Gradient. Alright, so scroll down over here, copy this. You can use yarn if you want to. Go back to your source code, open up the terminal, and paste it over here like that. Okay, same thing, we are going to restart our app like that, and we are going to run React Native link followed by cd into iOS and run put install. And lastly, we can then cd back to the root folder and run mpx react native run iOS like that. Alright, I'm gonna navigate to the my cart screen. I'm gonna hide the terminal. And the first thing we need to do here is to import from React Native linear gradient. Alright, and over here is going to be linear gradient like that. Alright, now within the footer total component, we are going to return a container view. And within this container view, we are going to have two sections. The first is going to be the shadow. Alright, we are going to use linear gradient to generate the shadow, and followed by the order details, right? So for the shadow, we are going to make use of linear gradient. Start is going to be x0, y0, and is going to be x0, y equals to 1, right? For the colors, we are going to make use of two colors. The first one is actually the transparent color. Alright, so colors.transparent, and followed by colors.lightgray1, like that. Alright, and for the style, position is going to be absolute. Top equals to -15, left equals to 0, right equals to 0. For the height, if the platform is equals to iOS, then the height will be 200. If it's not, which means if it's Android, then it will be 50. Alright, border top left radius equals to 15, border top right radius equals to 15 as well. Alright, save it. You can't see the shadow yet, it's because we haven't rendered the order detail section. Alright, so for the order detail, we are going to render a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Padding equals to sizes.padding. Border top left radius equals to 20. Border top right radius equals to 20 as well. Background color equals to white. Alright, so within the order detail section, we have the subtotal, shipping fee, a line divider over here. This one's actually total, right? So we have subtotal, shipping fee, line divider, total, and lastly we have the button, right? So over here we have subtotal, shipping fee, a line divider, total, and lastly we have the button, right? So for the subtotal section, we need a container view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row. And over here, we are going to render two text components. The first one is going to be subtotal. Give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1 and the fonts equals to body tree. Alright. And the second text component over here, we are going to render a $sign followed by subtotal dot to fix 2 decimal places, right? Give it a bit of styling as well. The font should be equals to H3. Alright, save it. Oh, I'm sorry, the reason why these are not showing here is because we haven't actually rendered footer total in our my cart screen. Alright, so we are going to do that right now. So head over to the index.js file. We are going to simply copy and paste it like this and change it to footer total. And we are going to export it over here, save it. Now head back to the my cart screen. At the top, we need to import footer total. And then I'm going to simply render it over here. Alright, in the footer section, I'm going to render footer total like this. Alright, save it. Oops, I need to pass the props as well. So subtotal equals to 37.97. Shipping fee is going to be 0.00. Total is going to be 37.97 as well. Alright, save it. Navigate to the my cart screen. Oh, I think there's a typo over here in the linear gradient component. Yep, it should be colors, not color. Right, save it. Navigate to the my cart screen. Perfect. Alright. Next, after the subtotal section, we have the shipping fee. Right? We have the shipping fee over here. So same thing, we are going to render a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row. Margin top should be equals to sizes.base, and margin bottom should be equals to sizes.padding. Alright, over here we need two text components as well, like that. The first one is going to be shipping fee, give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, and the fonts will be body tree. Save it. Okay, next we are going to render a $sign followed by shipping fee dot toFix 2 decimal places. Same thing, give it a bit of styling as well, where the fonts should be equals to H3. Save it. Perfect. So after this, we have the line divider over here, like that. Save it. Alright, next we have the total section. Same thing, we need a container view as well. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row. Margin top should be equals to sizes.padding. Alright, now over here we need two text components as well. The first one is going to be total. Flex will be 1, and the fonts will be H2. And for the second text component, we are going to render a $sign followed by total.toFix to 2 decimal places. Give it a bit of styling as well. The fonts should be equals to H2. Alright, save it. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to render the order button over here. Alright, this one is actually order button, like that. Okay, so for this, we can make use of the text button component. Alright, so button container style. Height will be 60. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius. And lastly, the background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, for the label, it's going to be please your order. And whenever I click on this button, on press is going to be equals to on press, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Sweet. Alright, so that's all for the My Cart screen. Next, we are going to work on the My Cart screen. Okay, so go back to your source code, navigate back to the mycart.js. For the footer total component, we are going to supply the onPress prop, and whenever you click on the place your order button, we are going to navigate to the My Cart screen, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, now whenever we click on this button, we should be able to navigate to the My Cart screen, just like that. Alright, now for the My Cart screen, we basically have 3 main sections, which are the header section over here, followed by the cart section. The cart section has to be scrollable, okay? And lastly, we have the footer section over here. Alright, now go back to your source code. I'm going to close all these files, just like that. Okay, now open up the cart directory and followed by the mycart.js file over here. Alright, now for the My Cart screen, I'm going to import one more component, which is scroll view from React Native. And after that, we need to import from components, like that. And we need header, we need icon button, and we need text button. Yep, like that. Next, we need to import from constants. And for this component, sorry, for this screen, we need fonts, we need sizes, we need colors, icons, and also dummy data, like that. Alright, now for the My Cart screen itself, the first thing I'm going to do is to set the background color to white, like that. And I'm going to remove these text component. So for the My Cart screen, we have 3 major sections, right? The first one is the header section. Second one will be the cart section, like that. And lastly, we have the footer section. So for the header section, we are going to render a new function called render header. and we are going to create this function over here. So function render header, and over here I'm going to return the header component. Well, in fact, we can actually copy the header component from the my cart screen, since they are actually almost the same, just that we need to get rid of the right component. Okay, so in the my cart.js file, navigate to the render header function over here, copy the header component just like that, and paste it over here. Okay, next we are going to change the title to my carts, and we are going to replace the right component with an empty view. Give it a bit of styling. The width is going to be 40, just like that. Save it. Perfect, so we have the header section in place. Oh, and the reason why we need to add an empty view over here as the right component is so that we can push the title to be in the center position, alright? Okay, so after the header section, next we are going to move on to the cart section over here. And if you take a look at the mark, we are going to reuse the cart item over here as well. Alright, so for that reason, we are going to create a standalone component for the cart item, right? Okay, so go back to your source code. In the components folder over here, we are going to create a new file called cart item. Okay, same thing, we are going to import from React. We are going to import from React Native. And for this component, we need view, we need text, we need touchable opacity, and also we need image. Next, we are going to import from constants like that. And for this, we need fonts, we need sizes, we need colors, and also icons. Next, we can then create the functional component, so constant cart item. And for this component, we will be receiving 3 props, which are the item itself, the cart item itself over here. Next is going to be the isSelected prop, because whenever the cart item is being selected, we need to highlight the radio button over here, right? Okay. And lastly, we have the onPress prop, just like that, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Same thing, don't forget we need to export default cart item over here, like that. Alright, now just to see if it works, I'm going to simply return a touchable opacity, like that, and within this touchable opacity, we are going to render a text component, and here it's going to be the item.name. Don't worry, we will come back to this cart item component shortly. Alright, so next we need to include the cart item in the index.js file. So same thing, I'm going to copy just like that, and I'm going to replace it to cart item. Next, we need to export it over here. Save it. Next, we can then go back to the My Cart screen, scroll to the top over here. We need to import the cart item from components as well, just like that. Okay. Next, underneath the header section over here for the cart section, we are going to render a scroll view. Alright, give the scroll view a bit of styling over here. So content container style. Flex scroll is going to be 1. This is so that our scroll view takes up the whole area over here. Okay, so next we need to set the margin top to sizes.radius. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, and lastly the padding bottom is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, now if you take a look at the mark for the cart section over here, we will need to further split it into 2 sections, which are the My Cart section over here and followed by the Add New Cart section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Within the scroll view, we will have 2 more sections, which are the My Cart section and followed by the Add New Cart section. So for the My Cart section, we are going to render a new function called render my carts, like that, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render my carts, and we are going to return a container view, and within this container view we are going to make use of the map method to render the carts over here. Alright, so dummy data.mycarts.map, and over here item index followed by arrow function, and we are going to return the cart item component that we have just created. And since we are using the map method, we need to supply the key prop like that, and over here it's going to be my cart followed by a dash and item.id, like that. Next, we are going to supply the item prop, and over here we are going to make use of the spread operator to inject a new property called key. Alright, and for this key it's going to be my cart. And the reason why we need to supply an additional property over here is so that we can differentiate whether it's from my cart or a new cart, right? Because if user chooses a cart from the add new cart section, we are going to navigate user to the add new cart screen. Whereas if the user chooses a cart from the my cart section, then we are going to navigate user to the checkout screen over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Now let me try to save it and see if it works. Sweet, so we have the cart item in place. Now all we need to do is to work on the cart item component so that it looks like our mug over here, where we have the image of the cart on the left, followed by the cart name, and lastly we have the radio button on the right. Okay, so go back to the cart item component. Over here for the touchable opacity, we are going to give it a bit of styling. Alright, so flex direction should be equals to row, height equals to 100, align items equals to center, margin top equals to sizes.radius, padding horizontal equals to padding, sizes.padding, border width equals to 2, border radius equals to sizes.radius, and lastly for the border color, alright, if is selected equals to true, then the border color is going to be primary. If it's not, then it's going to be light gray too, like that. Alright, next for the on press, it's going to be on press. And now within the touchable opacity, we are going to render three things, which are the image, followed by the cart name, and lastly we have the radio button. Alright, so over here we have the cart image, followed by the name and the radio button, like that. Alright, so for the cart image, we are going to render a container view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Width equals to 60, height equals to 45, align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, border width equals to 2, border radius equals to sizes.radius, and the border color is going to be colors.light gray too. Right, now within this view we are going to render the image component, where the source is going to be item.icon, resize mode is going to be center, and for the style, width is going to be 35 and height will be 35 as well. Right, now save it. Sweet. Next we are going to work on the cart name section over here. So for this we will simply render a text component, and over here it's going to be item.name. Give it a bit of styling as well, where the flex is going to be 1, margin left is going to be sizes.radius, and the fonts will be H3. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we are almost there. For the last component, it's going to be the radio button, and for this we are going to render the image component, like that. Where the source, if it's being selected, then we are going to render icons.check on. Check underscore on, like that. If it's not being selected, then we are going to render icons.check off. Okay, so for the style, it's going to be width 25, height 25 as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay, next we are going to keep track of the selected cart. And in order to do that, we need to create state in the my cart screen over here. Alright, so constant selected cart set selected cart equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be null. Next, in the my cart section over here, for the cart item component, we are going to supply the onPress prop as well. So whenever I click on this cart item, I would like to set the selected cart to item, like that. And I'm sorry guys, I think I made a mistake over here. For the item prop, in fact we can simply render item, just like that. And if I were to save it, nothing should change, right? Whereas whenever I click on the cart item, over here, just before we set it to the selected cart state, I would like to inject the key property into the item object, just like that, alright, by using the spread operator over here. Okay, and by doing so, we will be able to tell if the user has selected a cart from the My Cart section or the Add New Cart section over here. Okay, now save it. Next, for the isSelected prop, like that, we are going to check if the selected cart key, like that, dash selected cart dot id is equals to my cart dash item dot id. Alright, so what we are doing here is that, if the selected cart, if the user selected cart dot key dash, it's not equal, it should be dash selected cart dot id is equals to the my cart dash item id, then we are going to return true to the isSelected prop. Alright, now try to save it. Alright, cool. So currently our selected cart is actually referring to the master cart over here. And if I were to select Google Play, the style should change accordingly as well, just like that. Perfect. Alright, next we'll move on to the Add New Cart section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the Render My Cart section, we are going to render a new function called Render Add New Cart, like that. And we are going to create this function over here. So function render add new cart, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Margin top should be equals to sizes dot padding, like that. Alright, and over here we need to first render the title, which is the add new cart title over here. Alright, so for this we need the text component, and we are going to render add new cart, give it a bit of styling. The font should be equals to h3, just like that. Save it. Alright, next we are going to make use of the map method to render the cart item over here. Okay, so dummy data dot all carts dot map item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return the cart item component. Alright, same thing, we need to supply the key prop. Alright, and for this it's going to be new cart dash item dot id. For the item it's going to be item, and whenever we click on this for the unpressed prop, alright, we are going to set the selected cart, and over here we are going to make use of the spread operator, like that, same thing, in order to inject the key property over here. Alright, and for this it's going to be new cart, like that. Alright, now for the isSelected prop, same thing as well. We are going to check if the selected cart dot key dash selected cart dot id is equals to new cart dash item dot id. Item dot id, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. So we have the add new cart section in place, and we should be able to select these carts as well, just like that. Alright, and lastly we are going to work on the footer section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Underneath the scroll view over here, we are going to render a new function called render footer. Alright, and of course we are going to create this function over here. So function render footer, and we are going to return a container view, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Padding top should be equals to sizes.radius. Padding bottom should be equals to sizes.padding, and padding horizontal should be equals to sizes.padding as well, like that. Now within this container view, we are going to render the text button component. Alright, for the button container style, height should be equals to 60. Border radius should be equals to sizes.radius, and the background color should be equals to colors.primary. Alright, now save it. Okay, cool. So we have the footer container in place. Next, we need to supply the label prop. So label equals to, if the selected cart dot key is equals to new cart, then we are going to set the label to add. If it's not, then it's going to be place your order. Alright, save it. Now if I were to choose the card from the My Card section, the label of the button is going to be Place Your Order. However, if I were to choose a card from the Add New Card section, then the label of the button is going to be Add. There's actually one more thing we can do to improve the overall user experience, whereby we will only enable this button over here if and only if the user has made a selection over here. Alright, so for the background color, if the selected card is equals to null, then the background color is going to be colors.gray. If it's not, then it's going to be primary. And for the text button component, we are going to add a new prop called disable, like that. Alright, and we are going to disable the text button if the selected card equals to null. Alright, so now navigate to the components folder, open up the textbutton.js file. Over here, we need to add in a new prop called disable. And for the touchable opacity, we will add in a new prop as well, which is called disable equals to disable, like that. Alright, save it. Go back to the My Card screen, we are going to save it as well. Now if I were to go back to the previous screen, which is the My Card screen, and navigate back to the... the reason why we are getting this error is because we didn't use the optional chaining operator over here. Alright, so now in the My Card screen, I'm gonna navigate to the render add new card function and check if I have included, alright, over here, we need to include the optional chaining operator, which is basically the question mark, like that. Alright, this one as well. Okay, and check this function, the render My Cards function. Over here, we need to include the operator as well, like that. Alright, save it. Now we should be able to navigate to the My Card screen without any issues, like that. And at first, if the user hasn't selected any of the cards, we shouldn't be able to click on this button over here. Oops, I think we made a mistake somewhere. Let me do a quick check. Alright, disable. Let me navigate to the text button component. Alright, we have a typo over here. It should be disabled, like that. Save it. Now we shouldn't be able to click on this button. Perfect. And whenever the user select any of these cards, the footer button over here will be enabled, just like that. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the My Card screen. Next, we are going to work on the add new card screen over here. So go back to your source code in the mycard.js file. Over here, whenever we click on this button, this add or the place your order button on press, like that, we are going to check if the selected card dot key is equals to new card. Then we are going to navigate to the add card screen, and I'm going to pass the selected card over just like this. Alright, or else I would like to navigate to the checkout screen, and same thing, I'm going to pass the selected card over as well. Alright, okay, save it. Now if I were to choose a card from the add new card section, clicking on the add button over here should navigate us to the add card screen. Alright, perfect. Alright, so open up the add card.js file located in the card directory. Alright, so open it up. I'm gonna close all the other files just like that. So for the add card screen over here, since we are going to have a lot of text inputs later on, I'm going to first install a library called React Native Keyboard Aware Scroll View. This is so that when the keyboard appears, it will not block the text input. Alright, so scroll down and over here copy the npm install. You can use yarn if you want to. Go back to your source code, open the terminal, paste it and hit enter. Right, next we are going to run npx react native link. After that, we need to cd into iOS and run pod install. Now I need to close the app, just like that. And then we need to cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, so we have successfully installed the library. Next, I'm gonna hide the terminal and I'm going to navigate to the add card screen, just like that. Alright. Now for the add card screen, we need to import a couple more components from the React Native. So we need view, text, image, and also image background. After this, we can then import from React Native Keyboard Aware Scroll View. and over here it's going to be keyboard aware scroll view, like that. Alright, next we can then import from components, and for this screen we need header, we need icon, we need icon button, and also we need the text button. Then we need to import from constants, and for this we need fonts, we need sizes, colors, icons, and also images. And lastly, we need to import from our utils, our utility folder, like that. And over here it's going to be utils. Alright, now as you can see from the mock, there are actually quite a number of things that we need to do over here. But don't worry, we will tackle it one step at a time, just like how we did it for the other screens, alright? So same thing, for this screen, we are going to split into 3 major sections. The first one we have here is the header section, followed by the body section, and lastly we have the footer section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. For the container view, I'm going to set the background color to white, like that. And over here, I'm going to get rid of this text component. And like I said, we have 3 major sections, right? We have header, we have body, and also we have footer. So for the header section, we are going to render a new function called render header, like that. Alright, same thing, we are going to create the render header function over here. And for the render header function, if you take a look at the mock over here, it's actually very similar. Well, I would say it's the same as the my cards screen, right? Which means we can actually copy and paste from the my card screen. So go back to the source code, open up the mycard.js file, scroll to the top. For the render header, I'm going to copy the whole thing like this and paste it over here. Now all we need to do is to change the title to add new card. Save it. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the header section. Next, we are going to move on to the body section over here. And for the body section, we can further split into 2 sections, which are the card section at the top over here, and followed by the form section over here. Alright, so go back to the source code, and over here, after the header section, we are going to wrap the body section within the keyboard aware scroll view component, like that. Alright, so for the keyboard away scroll view, the keyboard dismiss mode is going to be on drag, which basically means whenever we scroll the scroll view or the keyboard away scroll view, it will automatically hide the keyboard. Alright. Next, for the content container style, flex grow is going to be 1, padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, like that. And within the keyboard away scroll view component, we are going to have 2 sections, which are the card section and followed by the form section. So for the card section, we are going to render a new function called render card over here, and we are going to create the render card function right here on top. Alright, so function render card, and for this function we are going to return an image background, like that, and the source is going to be images.card, style is going to be height 200, width is going to be 100%, margin top is going to be sizes.radius, border radius is going to be sizes.radius as well, and lastly the overflow is going to be hidden, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the shape of the card in place. Next, we are going to work on the card logo over here, and the card logo actually depends on the user selected card. Alright, so in order to do that, we need to first create the selected card state over here. Alright, so constant selected card, set selected card, and the initial value is going to be null. And we are going to make use of the use effect hook to retrieve the selected data from the previous screen. Alright, so over here, react.useEffect, alright, followed by the arrow function, like that. Over here it's going to be an empty array, and now we can actually retrieve the selected card from route.params, which is being passed from the my card screen. Alright, So once we got the selected card, we are going to set the selected card into our state over here. Alright, now save it. Next, navigate to the render card function over here within the image background. We are going to render the logo, right? So for the logo, we are going to render an image component. And the source is going to be selected card dot icon. Resize mode is going to be contain. Style will be position absolute, top 20, right 20, height 40, and the width is going to be at D. Alright, now save it. Okay, cool. So we have the card logo in place. Next, we'll be working on the details over here. Okay, so after the logo section, we have the detail section, right? So for the detail section, we need a container view like that. Give it a bit of styling. Position, same thing, it's going to be absolute. Bottom equals to 10, left equals to 0, right equals to 0. Padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Alright, now over here, the first thing we are going to render is actually the card holder name. Okay, so we need a text component, and we are going to hard code it to a value for now. We are going to change this after we have completed the form inputs later on. Okay, so give it a bit of styling. Color equals to white, and the fonts will be H3. Alright, save it. Now after the card holder name, we will need to include the card number as well as the expiry date as well. Okay, so for this we need another view. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction is going to be row. Okay, now over here we need two text components. The first one is actually for the card number. Okay, give it a bit of styling. Flex equals to 1, color is going to be white, and the fonts is going to be body tree. Alright, save it. Okay, so the second text component over here, we are going to render the expiry date. Alright, give it a bit of styling. Color is going to be white, and the fonts is going to be body tree as well. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, next we are going to work on the form section over here. And since we need to use the text input component over and over again, we are going to create a standalone component called form input. Right, so go back to your source code in the components directory, create a new file called form input. Like that. Same thing, we are going to import from React. We need to import from React Native as well. And for this, we need view, we need text, and also we need text input. After that, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need fonts, sizes, and also colors. Alright, and lastly, we can then create the form input functional component. So constant form input equals to, and for this component, we are going to tag in quite a number of props. Alright, so we need container style, we need input container style, we need label. Alright, we need label for this part over here. We need placeholder, we need input style, we need the value, and the default value is going to be an empty string. We need prepend component, we need a pan component. This is just in case if we need to render anything before or after the text input, right? Just like this. Okay, after that we have onChange, secure text entry. This is actually for password. We don't need it here, but it's okay, I'll just include it. Keyboard type is going to be default as the default value. Autocomplete type, and the default value is going to be off. Auto capitalize equals to none. Error message, and the default value is an empty string. And lastly, we have the max length. Alright, after that followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default form input like that. Alright, so for the form input component, we are going to first return a container view, and the style will be the container style like this. Next, over here, we are going to render the label as well as the error message over here. in case if there's any. Okay, so for that we need another view, give it a bit of styling, flex direction equals to row, and the justify content equals to space between. And for this view component we need two text component. Alright, so we need two text component. The first one is going to be the label, give it a bit of styling, color is going to be gray, and the fonts will be body 4. Alright, and the second text component over here, it's going to be the error message. Give it a bit of styling as well. Color is going to be red, and the fonts will be body 4 as well. Alright, so after the label section, next we are going to work on the text input section over here. Okay, so for that we need another view component, give it a bit of styling. Flex direction is going to be row. For the height, if the sizes.height is more than 800, then the height is going to be 55, or else it's going to be 45. Okay, so padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. For margin top, if the sizes.height is more than 800, then the margin top is going to be sizes.base. If not, then it's going to be 0. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius. Background color is going to be colors.lightgray 2. Like that. Alright, and lastly we need to include the input container style over here as well. Alright, now within the container view over here, we are going to have the prepend component and also the append component. And within these two components, we are going to have our text input, just like that. Okay, so for the style, flex is going to be 1, and we are going to include the input style over here, like that. Next, value is going to be value. Placeholder is going to be placeholder. Placeholder text color is going to be colors.gray. Secure text entry is going to be secure text entry. Keyboard type is going to be same thing, keyboard type. Autocomplete type is going to be autocomplete type. Auto capitalize, it's going to be auto capitalize as well. Max lang is going to be max lang. And lastly, for the onChange text, we are going to tag in the text param followed by the arrow function, and we are going to call the onChange function by passing the text over. Okay, so that's all for the form input component. Save it. Next, we need to include the form input component in the index.js file. So over here, I'm going to simply copy and paste and change it to form input, and we need to export it over here. Save it. Alright, now go back to the add cart screen. Scroll down after the render cart function. We are going to render a new function over here called render form. Okay, and same thing, we are going to create this function over here, function render form, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding times 2. Alright, now over here for the form, we have the cart number followed by the cart holder name, expiry date, and lastly we have the CVV number. Alright, now for the form section, we are going to render a number of form input. We have cart number over here followed by the cart holder name, expiry date, CVV number, and lastly we are going to render this radio button as well. Okay, so go back to your source code. Over here we have the cart number. Alright, and for this we are going to render the form input component that we have just created. Label is going to be cart number. Keyboard type is going to be number paid. Now for the value, I'm going to simply hardcode it to an empty string for now and see if the component works properly. Alright, so save it. Okay, cool, so the form input component that we have just created is indeed working properly. Now what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to create a list of states that we need for the form inputs over here. Okay, So scroll to the top over here after the selected card state. Now I'm going to create a list of form input state. Okay, so constant card number set card number equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be an empty string. Now I'm going to copy, duplicate over here and change this to card number error. Okay, just in case if there's any error, I'm going to use these state. Alright, so set card number error. After this we have card name. Alright, next it's going to be card name error. After that we have expiry date. Alright, and over here is going to be expiry date error. Next we have the CVV, right? CVV number, like that. After that, same thing, we have CVV error. Alright, set CVV error. And lastly, we have the is remember flag for this part over here. Alright, so we have the is remember, set is remember, and the initial value is going to be false, just like that. Alright, now that we have all the states in place, next I'm going to fix the dummy data that we have over here. Alright, so navigate to the render card function. In the detail section over here, this one is going to be card name, and for the card number it's going to be card number, and this one is going to be expiry date, like that. Okay, save it. Now we can then continue to work on our form inputs component over here. Alright, so for the value it's going to be card number. Next we need to supply the onChange prop. So onChange equals to, over here we have the value as the parameter followed by the arrow function, and over here I'm going to simply set the card number by passing the value over, just like that. Save it. Now if we were to type something over here, the card number should be reflected in the card as well. Okay, alright, perfect. But we are not quite done yet for the card number form input. The reason being is because we need to add in these spaces over here. Alright, so every time after a 4 digits number have been entered, we will need to add a space after that. Alright, so in order to achieve something like this, we are going to make use of the regular expression. Okay, so over here in the onChange prop, for the value, I'm going to make use of the replace function, like that. And for the search value, it's going to be / / s / and followed by g. So what we are doing here is that we are basically looking for all the spaces that we can find in the value variable, right? Once we locate these spaces, we are going to replace it to the empty string, just like that. Alright, after that, I'm going to call another replace function, and this time it's going to be / in bracket / d curly braces and 4. Alright, and over here we need to include /g. Alright, so what we are doing here is that we are basically looking for the occurrence of 4 digits number, right? So the D over here stands for digit, and the 4 that wraps within the curly braces over here means we are looking for 4 digits number. Alright, after that, for the second parameter over here, we are going to make use of the string replacement pattern, which is basically a $ followed by 1, like that. And we are going to append a space after this, just like that. So what we are doing here is that we are looking for 4 digits number. Once we got that, we are going to replace it over here, and we are going to add a space after that. Alright, and lastly, we are going to call the trim method, just like that. Alright, save it. Now if I were to enter 16 digits number, we should have spaces in between. Let's see. Perfect. Alright, so every 4 digits number that we enter, we will inject a space over here, just like that. Cool. Alright, next I'm going to specify the max length prop, and for this it's going to be 19, because we have 16 digits number followed by 3 spaces. Alright, so in total we have 19 characters. Next, I'm going to make use of the validate input function. Alright, so utils.validate input, and the first param is going to be the value, second param is the minimum length, and it's going to be 19, and the third param is actually the set error state. So for this, it's going to be set cart number error, like that. Alright, next we need to supply the error message prop. Oops, error message, like that. And for this, it's going to be cart number error. Alright, save it. Now, if I didn't enter 16 digits number over here, an error message will be shown like that. Okay. Alright guys, we are almost there. All we need to do now is to work on the check icon over here. So what we need to do is that if the user input passes the validation, then we are going to show a green check icon over here. But if the user input failed to meet the requirement, then the icon over here is going to be changed to a red cross. Alright. And since we need to do it multiple times over here, we are going to create a standalone component for this. Alright, so go back to the source code and the components folder. We are going to create a new file called form input check. Same thing, we are going to import from React. We are going to import from React Native. For this, we need view and also we need image, like that. Alright, after this, we need to import from constants. And for this, we need colors and also icons. And lastly, we can then create the form input check functional component. So constant form input check. And for this component, we will be receiving two props, which are value and arrow, followed by arrow function. And we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default form input check over here. Alright, so for the form input check component, we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Justify content, it's going to be center. And within the view, we are going to render an image component. For the source, if the value equals to empty or the value not equals to empty and the area should be like that, and the area is equals to empty, then I'm going to render the correct icon like that, or else I'm going to render cancel icon. Alright, now for the style, it's going to be height 20, width 20, and for the thin color, same thing. If the value is equals to empty, then the thin color is going to be colors.gray, or else if the value is not equals to empty and the area is equals to empty, then the thin color is going to be green, or else it's going to be red. Alright, now save it. Next, we need to include the form input check component in the index.js file over here. I'm going to simply copy and paste and change it to form input check, like that. And we need to export it over here. Save it. Now we can then navigate back to the add cart screen. After the error message prop, we are going to supply the append component prop. And for this, we are going to simply render. Before that, we need to, almost forgot, I need to import it over here first. We need to import the form input check component. Now go back to the cart form input over here. We are going to simply render form input check like that. And for the value, it's going to be cart number. And for the error, it's going to be cart number error, like that. Save it. Perfect. Now if I were to key in 16 digits number, the icon should change accordingly as well. Sweet. Alright, so that's all for the cart number form input. Next, we are going to work on the cart holder name. Alright, so after the cart number, we are going to work on the cart holder name. And for this, I'm going to simply copy the form input component from the cart number and paste it over here. Next, I'm going to change the label to cart holder name. I'm going to remove the keyboard type. We don't need that. I'm going to remove the max length prop as well. For the value, it's going to be cart name. And we need the container style prop for this as well. Alright, so margin top is going to be sizes.radius. And for the unchanged prop, I'm going to get rid of this. We are still going to make use of the validate input from the utils file. Alright, so utils.validate input. The first parameter is going to be the value. Minimum length is going to be 1, and then the set error is going to be set card name error. Error message is going to be card name error. And over here, same thing for the append component, form input check component. The value is going to be card name, and for the error, should be card name error, like that. Alright, now save it. Okay, cool. So if we were to type something over here, oh, I forgot to set the card name over here. Alright, so set card name, it's going to be value. Alright, now save it. Okay, so if we were to type something over here, it should be reflected over here as well. Perfect. Next, we are going to work on the expiry date as well as the CVV number form input. Okay, so after the card holder name over here, we are going to create a new view, container view actually. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, margin top equals to sizes dot radius. Let me specify the section over here as well. So this one is going to be expiry date followed by the CVV, right? So same thing, I'm going to copy the form input from the card holder name and paste it over here. Alright, now I'm going to change the label to expiry date. I'm going to change the value to expiry date as well. For the placeholder, it's going to be month/year, like that. For the max length, it's going to be 5. Container style is going to be flex1. And for the onChange prop, we are going to validate the input as well, just that the minimum value is going to be 5 instead of 1. And for the set error, it's going to be set expiry date error, like that. And for this, we are going to change it with set expiry date. Okay, we don't need the error message for this. And for the append component, the form input check, for the value, it's going to be expiry date. And for the error, it's going to be expiry date error, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So we have the expiry date form input in place, and it's being reflected over here as well. Alright, and after the expiry date form input, we are going to work on the CVV. Same thing, I'm going to copy and paste it from here as well, like that. I'm going to change the label to CVV. Value, it's going to be CVV as well. I'm going to get rid of the placeholder prop. Max length is going to be 3. For the container style, it's going to be flex1, and the margin left is going to be sizes.radius, like that. For the onChange prop, we are going to validate the value as well, just that the minimum value is going to be 3 instead of 5. And for the set error, it's going to be set CVV error, like that. Alright, over here, we are going to change it with set CVV. Okay, now over here, for the value, it's going to be CVV, and for the error, it's going to be CVV error. Alright, save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so after the form input, next we are going to work on the radio button over here. Alright, so for this, we are going to create a standalone component called radio button. Okay, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called radio button. Okay, same thing, we are going to import from React. We are going to import from React Native. And for this, we need touchable opacity. We need text, and also we need image. Okay, next we need to import from constants. We need fonts, we need colors, we need sizes, and also we need icons. After that, we can then create the functional component. So constant radio button equals to, for this component, we need a few props, which are container style, label, label style, icon style is selected, and unpressed. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and don't forget we need to export default radio button. Alright, so for the radio button component, we are going to return the touchable opacity, like that. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row, align items equals to center, justify content equals to center as well. And we are going to include the container style like this. Okay, the unpressed is going to be unpressed, And within the touchable opacity, we are going to render the icon on the left and followed by the text component on the right. Okay, so over here we are going to have the image component, where the source, if the is selected equals to true, then the source is going to be icons.check on, or else it's going to be icons.check off. Okay, so for the style, it's going to be margin left 5, width 20, height 20, and we are going to include the icon style as well, like that. Next, we have the text component. Alright, so over here we have the text component, and we are going to render label, give it a bit of styling. Margin left equals to sizes.radius, color equals to colors.gray, and the fonts will be body tree, and of course we are going to include the label style over here as well. Alright, now save it. Don't forget we need to include the radio button in the index.js file over here. Same thing, I'm going to copy and paste and change it to radio button, and we need to export the radio button over here. Save it. Now go back to the add card screen at the top. Don't forget we need to import the radio button, like that. Now navigate back to the render form function. After the expiry date and CVV number section over here, we are going to render another view like that. Oh, and here it's going to be the remember section. Let me just mark it properly. Alright, we are going to give it a bit of styling. Align items is going to be flex start. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, now within this view, we are going to render the radio button component that we have just created. Okay, for the label, it's going to be remember this card details. Is selected is going to be is remember, and the unpressed is going to be set is remember equals to the opposite of is remember. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Alright, so after the form input section or the form section, all we need to do now is to work on the footer section over here. Alright, so after the body section over here, we are going to render a new function called render footer, right? And of course, we are going to create this function over here. So function render footer, we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Padding top equals to sizes.radius. Padding bottom equals to sizes.padding. Padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding as well. Now within this container view, we are going to render the text button component. Alright, so the label is going to be add card. Button container style is going to be height 60. Border radius equals to sizes.radius. For the background color, it's going to be colors.primary. And lastly, whenever I click on this button, I should be able to navigate back to the previous screen, like that. Alright, now save it. Sweet. Now there's one more thing I would like to do to sort of improve the overall user experience, and that is we will only enable this button after the user has completed all the fields over here. Alright, all the inputs over here. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to create a helper function over here. Alright, so function is enable add card. Alright, over here is going to be a return statement, and I'm going to return true if the card number is not equals to empty, card name is not equals to empty as well, and the expiry date, the expiry date is not equals to empty, should be empty over here, and the CVV is not equals to empty, and the card number error is equals to empty, and the card name error is equals to empty, and expiry date error is equals to empty, and lastly the CVV error is equals to empty. Alright, now I'm going to make use of this function over here in the footer section. Oops, in the footer section over here. Alright, I'm going to supply the disable prop, and I will only disable the text button if and only if the isEnable card returns false. Okay, and over here for the background color, if the isEnable card returns true, then I'm going to render the primary color, or else I'm going to render transparent primary color like that. Alright, save it. Now if I didn't complete any of these fields over here, any of these inputs over here, the button will be disabled, right? Just like that. Okay, if we were to complete all the mandatory fields, the button will be enabled. Perfect. Alright, so that's all for the add new card screen. Next we are going to work on the checkout screen over here. Alright, so for the checkout screen, we have a few sections over here. Alright, so we have the header section, followed by the my cart section, delivery address section, coupon section, and lastly we have the footer section over here. Alright, so go back to the source code, open up the checkout file located in the cart directory. Okay, and over here we need the image component from React Native as well. After this we can then import from React Native keyboard aware scroll view, and here it's going to be keyboard aware scroll view like that. After that we can then import from components, and for this we need the header, icon button, form input, oops, should be form input, cart item, and also the footer total like that. Alright, after that we can then import from constants, and for this we need fonts, sizes, colors, icons, and also dummy data like that. Alright, so for the checkout screen, the first thing I'm going to do is to keep track of the user selected cart from the previous screen. Right, so to do that same thing, I'm going to create a selected cart state. So constant selected cart set selected cart equals to react.useState, and the initial value it's going to be null. After that we can then make use of the react.useEffectHook. Okay, arrow function over here, it's going to be an empty array, and now we can then retrieve the selected cart through the route.params. Once we got the selected cart, we can then set the selected cart like this. Okay, save it. Now for the container view of the checkout screen, I'm going to set the background color to white, and same thing, I'm going to get rid of this text component and replace it with the header. Alright, and over here I'm going to render the render header function. Okay, I'm going to create this function over here. So function render header, and since the render header function is actually pretty much the same as what we did in the previous screen, I'm going to just copy and paste like this. I'm going to just simply copy everything, the header component, and paste it over here in the checkout screen. Just that I would change the title to checkout like that. Alright, save it. Alright, cool. So the header section is in place. Next we can then work on the body section. So for the body section, we are going to wrap everything inside the keyboard aware scroll view like that. The keyboard dismiss mode is going to be on drag. Extra scroll height is going to be -200. Content container style flex scroll is going to be 1. Padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding. Padding bottom is going to be 20. Oh, and the reason why we need to add this extra scroll height is so that the distance between the text input and the keyboard won't be too far apart. Okay, now within the body section, we are going to render 3 more sections, which is the cart section, my cart section actually, followed by the delivery address section, and lastly we have the coupon section. Okay, so over here we have the my cart section, followed by delivery address section, and lastly we have the coupon section. So for the my cart section, same thing, I'm going to render a new function called render my carts, and I'm going to create this function over here. So function render my carts, and I'm going to return a container view like that. And within the container view, I'm going to check if the selected cart is not equals to null, and over here I'm going to make use of the map method to render the cart item. Okay, so dummy data dot my carts dot map. Over here it's going to be item index followed by the arrow function, and I'm going to return the cart item component like that. Alright, since we are using the map method, over here we need to supply the key prop. Alright, like that. My cart dash item.id. The item is going to be item. For the is selected prop, it's going to be selected cart. Oops, like that. Selected cart dot key dash selected cart dot id is equals to my cart dash item.id. Alright, now for the onPress, I am going to set the selected cart to item. Just that I would like to inject the key property over here as well, just like that, by using the spread operator over here. Okay, so over here I'm going to inject the key property my cart like that. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Okay. Alright, next we are going to work on the delivery address section. Okay, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the render my carts section, we are going to render a new function called render delivery address like that. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here. Okay, and for this function we are going to simply return a container view, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, and within this container view, the first thing we need to render is actually the label over here. Alright, so we need a text component that renders delivery address. Need a bit of styling as well. The font should be equals to H3. Save it. Alright, now the label is in place. Next we need to render another view like that. Give it a bit of styling. Flex direction equals to row. Align item equals to center. Margin top equals to sizes.radius. Padding vertical equals to sizes.radius as well. Padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Border width equals to 2. Border radius equals to sizes.radius. And lastly, the border color equals to colors.light gray 2, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, so we have the container in place. All we need to do now is to render the icon on the left and followed by the address itself on the right. Alright, so over here we are going to render an image component. The source is going to be icons dot location 1, like that. Style is going to be width 40 and height 40. Alright, next we are going to render the address by using the text component, and over here I'm going to simply render a dummy address. Alright, so it's 300 Post Street, San Francisco, CA, California. Alright, so oops, over here I'm going to give it a bit of styling. Margin left is going to be sizes.radius. Width is going to be 85%, and the font will be body tree. Alright, now save it. Perfect. Oh, here it should be Francisco, like that. Alright. Okay, so that's all for the delivery address section. Next we are going to work on the coupon section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. After the delivery address section, we are going to render a new function called render coupon, like that. And we are going to create this function over here. So function render coupon, we are going to return a container view with a bit of styling, like that. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding. And the first thing we need to render over here is the label as well. Alright, so we need a text component that renders add coupon, and the font will be H3, like that. Alright, save it. Next, we are going to render this form input with the append component over here. Alright, so to do that, we are going to make use of the form input. Over here, the input container style is going to be margin top 0, padding left, padding left, it's going to be sizes.padding, padding right is going to be 0, border width is going to be 2, border color is going to be colors.light gray 2, background color is going to be colors.white, and the overflow is going to be hidden, like that. Alright, now let me try to save it. Okay, the container is in place, so far so good. Next, we have the placeholder prop. The placeholder is going to be coupon code. And lastly, we are going to make use of the append component prop to actually render this icon over here. Alright, so for the append component, we are going to render a container view like that, with a bit of styling. Width equals to 60, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, and the background color equals to colors.primary. Alright, save it. Okay, we are almost there. All we need to do now is to render the image component over here, where the source is going to be icons.discount, and the style will be width 40 and height 40. Alright, save it. Perfect, so we have completed the body section over here. All we need to do now is to render the footer section, and we can do that easily by using the footer total component, right? So over here we have the footer total. Subtotal is going to, subtotal is going to be 37.97. Shipping fee is going to be 0. Total is going to be 37.97. And whenever I click on this button actually over here, I am going to navigate to the success screen, right? The reason why I'm using the replace function over here is because I do not want the user to come back, to be able to navigate back to this screen, right? So save it. Perfect. Okay, so that's all for the checkout screen. Next, we are going to work on the success screen over here. But before we work on the UI, let me check if we can navigate back to the previous screen. Okay, that's kind of weird because the replace function over here should prevent us from navigating back to the previous screen. But that's okay because we have some other alternative. So if you're using iOS, all you need to do is to navigate to the app.js file. For the success screen, which is this screen over here, I'm going to add the options prop like this, and I'm going to set the gesture enabled to false. And I'm going to copy this and paste it over here as well for the delivery status screen. The reason being is because in the delivery status screen, which is this screen over here, we shouldn't allow the user to navigate back to the success screen. Alright, and if you're working on Android, let me save this. Go back to the success.js file. If you are working on Android, all you need to do is to remove the hardware backpress listener. Alright, so in order to do that, I'm going to import the back handler from React Native. Now that I'm here, I'm going to import image as well since we are going to use it later. Alright, and after that, within the success component or the functional component, we are going to make use of the use effect hook like this, followed by an empty array over here. And now we need to first create a constant variable like this, constant back handler. Okay, this is so that we can clean up the back handler later on. Okay, so over here, back handler dot add event listener, and we are going to listen to the hardware backpress, and whenever this event kicks in, we are going to simply return true like that. Alright, so what we are doing here is basically to ignore the hardware backpress on Android devices, okay? And don't forget, we need to clean up the event listener as well. Alright, so return an arrow function backhandler.remove, like that, okay? Alright, save it. And now you shouldn't be able to navigate back to the previous screen regardless if you are using iOS or Android, okay? Next, we are going to import from components as well. Alright, so over here it's going to be components, and we need to import the text button. And we are going to import from constants as well. And for this component, we need fonts, sizes, colors, and also images. Alright. Now for the success screen, it's actually quite, I would say, straightforward, because all we have here is basically an image component followed by two text components, and lastly we have the text button over here in the footer area. Alright, so for the container view over here, we are going to set the padding horizontal to sizes.padding, and the background color is going to be white, like that. And next I'm going to replace this text component with a container view, give it a bit of styling. Flags equals to 1, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well. And within this view, we have the image component, right? And the source over here is going to be images.success. Resize mode is going to be contain. And the style will be width 150 and height 150 as well. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the image component in place. Next, we are going to render two text components, like that. For the first text component, we are going to render congratulations, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding, and the font is going to be H1. Next, we are going to render payment was successfully made. Same thing, give it a bit of styling as well. Text align is going to be center. Margin top is going to be sizes.base. Color is going to be colors.dark gray. And the font is going to be body tree. Alright, save it. Sweet, and all we need to do now is to work on the footer section over here. Alright, and for this we are going to render a text button component. The label is going to be done, and the button container style height is going to be 55. Margin bottom is going to be sizes.padding. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius, and lastly the background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, save it. Perfect. And whenever I click on the done button on press, we are going to navigate to the delivery status screen. Save it. And now by clicking on this button over here, we should be able to navigate to the delivery status screen. Sweet. Alright, now for the delivery status screen, we basically have 4 main sections. The first one we have here is the header section. Later on, I'm going to remove this back button because we shouldn't allow the user to navigate back to the success screen. Alright, so after the header section, we have the info section over here, followed by the track order section. And this one is going to be a scroll view, okay? And lastly, we have the footer section over here. Alright, now go back to your source code in the delivery folder, open up the delivery status.js file, and over here we are going to import image as well as the scroll view. Okay, next we are going to import from components, and for this screen we need header, we need line divider, and also text button, like that. Okay, after this we need to import from constants, and for this we need fonts, colors, colors, sizes, icons, and constants, like that. Okay, now over here for the container view, the padding horizontal should be equals to sizes.padding, and the background color is going to be white. Okay, now within this container view, let me remove the text component. we have 4 main sections, right? We have the header, info, track order, as well as the footer. Okay, so over here we have header, we have info, we have track order, and lastly we have footer. So for the header section, we are going to render a new function called render header, and we are going to create this function over here. Alright, so function render header, and we are going to return the header component, and the title is going to be delivery status, and for the container style, the height is going to be 50, margin horizontal is going to be sizes.padding, and margin top is going to be 40, like that. Save it. Perfect. Alright, next we are going to work on the info section, which basically consists of 2 text components over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the header section, we are going to render a new function called render info. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here. So function render info, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, margin top equals to sizes.radius, padding horizontal equals to sizes.padding. Alright, now within this container view, we need 2 text components, like that. And for the first text component, we are going to render estimated delivery, give it a bit of styling, text align equals to center, color equals to gray, and the fonts equals to body 4. Next, we are going to render the date and time. I'm going to simply hard code it over here. So 21st of September 2021 followed by a slash and 12:30 p.m. like that. Alright, give it a bit of styling as well. Text align equals to center, and the font is going to be H2, like that. Alright, save it. Perfect. Alright, so after the info section, next we are going to work on the track order section over here. Okay, so go back to your source code. After the render info function over here, we are going to render a scroll view like that, and the shows vertical scroll indicator should be equals to false. And within the scroll view, we are going to render a new function called render track order, like that. Okay, and we are going to create this function over here, function render track order, and we are going to return a container view, give it a bit of styling, margin top equals to sizes.padding, padding vertical equals to sizes.padding as well, border radius equals to sizes.radius, border width equals to 2, border color equals to colors.light gray 2, like that. And lastly, the background color is going to be white 2, like that. Okay, save it. Alright, so we have the container in place over here. Next, we are going to work on these 2 text components. Okay, now within this container view, the first thing we need to render is the track order, like that. And for this, we need another container view, give it a bit of styling, flags direction equals to row, align item equals to center, justify content equals to space between, margin bottom equals to 20, and lastly the padding horizontal should be equals to sizes.padding. Alright, now within this view, we are going to render 2 text components. The first one is going to be track order, give it a bit of styling, the font should be equals to H3. Alright, and the second text component is going to be the tracking number, and for that I'm going to simply enter some dummy data like that. And for the style, the color is going to be gray, and the font is going to be body 3, like that. Alright, save it. Sweet. Now after the track order section, we actually need to render a line divider over here. Alright, so after the track order section over here, we are going to render a line divider, and the line style for the background color is going to be colors.lightgray2, like that. Save it. Okay, cool. So the line divider is in place. But before we work on the status section over here, I'm going to first create a state to keep track of the current stat. Okay, so go back to source code. At the top over here, we are going to create a state. Constant current stat, set current stat, and the initial value is going to be 0. Alright, now go back to the status section over here. Status section. We are going to first render a container view. Alright, give it a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.padding, and padding horizontal is going to be sizes.padding as well. Alright, now over here, we are going to make use of the map method to render each of these status items. Okay, over here it's going to be constants.track order status .map. It's going to be item index followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return a container view. Don't forget we need to supply the key prop over here. Alright, so for the key prop it's going to be status list dash index, and now within this view we are going to create another view, and this is actually for us to render this icon followed by these two text components. Okay, so give it a bit of styling first. Flex direction equals to row, align item equals to center, and margin vertical equals to -5. Alright, so over here the first thing we are going to render is the image component, where the source is going to be icons.check circle, style is going to be width 40, height 40, and for the tint color, if the index is less than or equals to current stat, which is the state that we have just created, okay, then we are going to render primary color, or else the tint color is going to be light gray 1. Alright, save it. Okay, cool. So we have the image in place. Next, we are going to work on the text components over here. Alright, so for that, we need another container view. Give it a bit of styling. Margin left should be equals to sizes.radius. And over here, we need two text components, right? So we need two text components. The first one is going to be item.title, and the font will be H3. And the second text component over here is going to be item.subtitle, and for the style, color is going to be colors.gray, and the font will be body 4, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, we are almost there. All we need to do now is to render the lines in between, right? Okay, so over here, if the index is less than constants.track order status.length -1, then we are going to render a container view like this. Alright, so what we are doing here is basically to check as long as we are not in the last item, then we are going to include the lines in between. Okay, alright, so within this container view, we need to have two more conditions because we have two different divider over here. One is solid line and the other one is dotted line, right? Okay, so for this, if the index is less than current stat, then we are going to render a view like this. Give it a bit of styling. Height equals to 50, width equals to 3, margin left equals to 18, background color equals to colors.primary, and the Z index is going to be -1. Alright, save it. The reason why nothing changes is because our current step is currently 0. Alright, so let me change it. Over here, let me change it to, let's say, 2. Okay, so as you can see here, the solid line is indeed working. Okay, is indeed being rendered on the screen. Alright, so over here, if the index is more than or equals to current step, then we are going to render an image component. This is actually for the dotted line. Over here, Okay, you can actually use view to achieve this result, but it's not easy to make it the same for both iOS and Android. Right, so for that reason, I'm going to use image instead. Okay, so over here, the source is going to be icons dot dotted line, resize mode is going to be cover, and the style will be width 4, height 50, and margin left equals to 17. Alright, save it. Perfect. And if you were to play around with the current step over here, the UI should be reflected accordingly as well. Like that. Sweet. Alright, so all we need to do next is to work on the footer section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the track order section, we are going to render a new function called render footer. And we are going to create this function over here, function render footer, and we are going to return a view with a bit of styling. Margin top is going to be sizes.radius, and margin bottom is going to be sizes.padding. Alright, and over here within the view, we are going to check if the current step is less than constant dot track order status dot length -1, which basically means if it's not the last step or the final step over here, then we are going to render a view with a bit of styling. Flex direction should be equals to row, and height should be equals to 55. Alright, so over here within this view, we have the cancel button followed by the map view button. Okay, so over here we have the cancel button followed by the map view button. So for the cancel button, we are going to make use of the text button component like that. For the button container style, width is going to be 40%. Border radius is going to be sizes.base. Background color is going to be colors.light gray 2. Next, for the label, it's going to be cancel. Label style. For the color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, and lastly, whenever I click on this button, I will simply navigate back to the food detail screen like that. Alright, save it. Okay, that's weird. Let me check. Oh, we have a typo over here. Alright, so it should be length like that. Okay, cool. So we have the cancel button in place. Next, we are going to work on the map view button over here. And in order to achieve this, we are going to create a new standalone component called text icon button. Alright, so go back to your source code. In the components folder, we are going to create a new file called text icon button. Alright, same thing. We are going to import from React. We are going to import from React Native. And for this, we need touchable opacity, text, image, and also style sheet. Next, we need to import from constants, and for this we need fonts and also colors. Alright, after this, for the functional component, constant text icon button. For this component, we are going to tag in a few props. So we need container style, we need label style, we need icon position. It can be left or right. I mean, the icon position can be either left or right. Okay, icon style, and also on press. Alright, followed by the arrow function, and we are going to return something. Don't forget, we need to export default text icon button. And over here, I'm going to include the style for the image as well, the icon actually. Alright, so constant styles equals to style sheet dot create image. And for this, the margin left is going to be 5, width is going to be 20, height is going to be 20, and the tint color is going to be colors.black. Alright, and for the text icon button component, we are going to return a touchable opacity, give it a bit of styling, flex direction equals to row, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, and we are going to include the container style over here, like that. Okay, for the unpress, it's going to be unpress. And within the touchable opacity, if the icon position is equals to left, then we are going to render an image component over here, where the source is going to be icon, and the style will be the styles image over here, and also the icon style. If the icon position equals to right, however, then we are going to render an image component over here, and I'm going to simply copy and paste it from the left component because they are actually the same. Alright, now in between these two image component, we are going to render the text component, like that. Give it a bit of styling. The font is going to be body tree, and we are going to include the label style over here as well, like that. And for this text component, we are going to render the label itself. Okay, I think that's all. Save it. Don't forget, we need to include in the index.js file. Over here, I'm going to simply copy, paste it, and change it to text icon button. And don't forget, we need to export it over here. Now go back to the delivery status screen. At the top, we need to import text icon button. Alright, now go back to the footer section. Over here, for the map view button, we are going to render text icon button. The container style is going to be flex equals to 1, margin left equals to sizes.radius, border radius equals to sizes.base, background color is going to be colors.primary. Alright, save it. Okay, cool, so we have the container in place. Next, for the label, it's going to be map view, and the label style is going to be color will be white, and the font will be H3. Next, for the icon, it's going to be icons.map. Icon position is going to be left. Icon style, width is going to be 25, height is going to be 25 as well. Margin right is going to be sizes.base, and the tint color is going to be colors.white. Alright, now whenever I click on this map view button, I'm going to simply navigate to the map screen, like that. Okay, save it. Perfect. Alright, next over here, if the current step is equals to the constants.track order status.length -1, which means if it's in the final step, then we are going to render a text button component, like that. Button container style, for the height it's going to be 55, border radius is going to be sizes.base. Next, for the label, it's going to be done, and whenever I click on this button, we should navigate to the food detail screen, like that. Alright, save it. Now if I were to change the current step to 5 or 4, then the footer section will be changed to a done text button. Perfect. Okay. Alright guys, we are almost there. So we have just completed the delivery status screen. Next, we'll move on to the map view, or the map screen over here, right? And in order for us to generate a map view in our app, the first thing you need to do is to set up or create a Google Map API key. I'm not going to go through the entire process over here in this video, but if you're interested in how you can generate your very own Google Map API key, we have actually documented the detailed steps over here in the byprogrammers.com. Okay, I've included a link to this article below, and if you follow all the steps over here, you will be able to generate your very own Google Map API key. Once you have done that, you can then proceed to the next article, which allows you to integrate Google Maps into the React Native app. Don't worry, I've included a link to this article in the description box below as well, so you can check that out if you want to. However, if you have been following this video by using our starter template over here, we have already set up most of the configurations needed for React Native maps beforehand. Alright, so all you need to do is to follow this article. Alright, follow this article on how to generate the Google Maps API key for mobile app. Once you got the API key, go back to your source code for iOS devices. Head over to the iOS folder over here, open up your app folder, and then the appdelegate.am file. You should be able to see this line over here, and all you need to do is to replace your API key over here. Alright. Next, if you are running on Android devices, open up your Android folder. In the app folder, source, main folder, open up the Android manifest.xml file and replace this with your API key. As simple as that. Alright, next I'm going to close this. I'm going to close the app delegate file as well, and I'm going to open up the map.js file over here. Alright, as you can see, we have already included some of the initial coordinates that we are going to use later on. Alright, so over here for we are going to import a couple more components from React Native. We need touchable opacity, we need image, we need style sheet, and also we need platform. Alright, and after this we are going to import from React Native maps, and over here we need the map view followed by provider Google, and lastly is the marker. Alright, next we need to import from React Native linear gradient as well. This is actually for the footer section over here later on. Alright, so we need to import linear gradient. Next, we need to import from components, and for this we need the icon button. Alright, after this we need to import from constants, and for this screen we need colors, fonts, icons, images, sizes, dummy data, and also constants. And lastly we need to import from utils. Alright, so over here it's going to be utils, like that. And for the map screen, we actually need to create quite a number of constant variables, or the React state, right? So I'm gonna do it here first. Okay, so first thing first, we need the map view ref, right? So constant map view equals to react.useRef. Next, we need the region state. So region, set region equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be null. Next we have toLocation, like that. Set toLocation equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be null as well. Next it's going to be from location. Set from location equals to same thing, react.useState, and the initial value is going to be null. And lastly we need a state for the angle, right? This angle is actually for the navigator over here. Okay, so angle, set angle equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be 0. Alright, I think that's all for now. Next, if we were to take a look at the mark, we actually have 3 main sections over here. The first one is of course the map view itself, followed by the header buttons over here, and lastly we have the footer section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code, scroll down over here for the main container view. I'm going to get rid of this text component, and we have 3 major sections over here, right? So we have map, we have header buttons, and lastly we have the footer, or the info section, right? So for the map section, we are going to render a new function over here called render map, like that, and we are going to create this function over here, function render map, and we are going to return the map view like this. Over here we need to set the ref equals to map view, style will be flex equals to 1, provider is going to be provider Google, and the initial region is going to be region. And of course we need to set the region over here in the use effect hook. Alright, so we need to set region equals to initial region, like that. And you know what, let me set the to and from location as well. So we need to set toLocation equals to destination, all right, the location that we are heading to, all right, so destination, and set from location is going to be dummy data dot from location, like that, and we are going to tag the second item from the array. Alright, now save it and we should be able to see the map over here. Alright, perfect. We have successfully rendered our map. Great. Oh, and on a side note, Kuching is actually my hometown in Malaysia. We have really good food and sceneries over here, and you should come and visit at least once after the pandemic is over, right? Okay, so after we have rendered the map view, next we are going to work on the marker. Alright, these are what we call marker. Okay, so go back to your source code over here within the map view. I'm going to check if the from location is not equals to now, then we are going to render the marker like that. And the key is going to be from location. The coordinate it's going to be from location, like that. Tracks view changes should be equals to false. Icon should be equals to icons.navigator1. Rotation should be equals to angle. We are going to work on this later on for the angle, I mean. And for the anchor, this is basically the anchor point of this marker over here. So for the anchor, it's going to be x 0.5 and y 0.5 as well. Alright, save it. Alright, now that our from location marker is in place, next we are going to work on the to location. Alright, so same thing, I'm going to make sure to location is not equals to now, and then I'm going to render the marker like this. And for this, the key is going to be to location. Coordinate is going to be to location, like that. Tracks view changes equals to false. Icon is going to be icons.location pin. We don't need rotation prop for this, but for the anchor, which is the anchor point of this marker, it's the same, which is x equals to 0.5 and y equals to 0.5 as well. Alright, now save it. Alright, so we have successfully rendered both the markers on the map view. Next, all we need to do is to work on the map view directions over here. And in order to achieve that, we are going to install another library called React Native Map Direction. Alright, so scroll down. Over here, I'm going to copy this. You can use yarn if you want to. Go back to your source code, open up the terminal, paste it and hit enter. Next, we need to run npx react native link, and lastly we need to cd into iOS and run pod install. Alright, now I'm going to close the app and I'm going to cd back to the root folder and run npx react native run iOS. Alright, now let me hide the terminal and I'm going to navigate to the map screen like that. Alright, map view. Alright, now in the map screen, in the map.js file, scroll to the top. Over here, I'm going to import from React Native maps directions. Alright, and for this, we will import the map view directions like that. Alright, now within the map view component, over here, after the two markers, we are going to render the map view directions. Okay, there are actually quite a number of props we need to fulfill. Alright, so let's begin with origin. Origin equals to from location. Destination equals to location. For the API key prop, you will need to include your very own API key. Alright, so for us it's going to be constants dot Google Map API key. Okay, so for the stroke width, it's going to be 5. The stroke color is going to be colors.primary. Optimize waypoints equals to true. And for the onReady prop, alright, so whenever the map view directions is ready, result arrow function. Alright, now before we work on the onReady prop, I'm going to add a few more states. Okay, so over here we need the constant is ready, set is ready equals to react.useState, and the initial value is going to be false. Constant duration, set duration. This one is actually for this part over here. Okay, set duration equals to react.useState, and the initial value is an empty string. Alright, now go back to the map view directions in the onReady prop. I'm going to first set the duration equals to math.ceiling result.duration. Okay, so from the result parameter, I can actually retrieve the duration between these 2 points over here. Okay, next, if the isReady state equals to false, the first thing we are going to do is to basically fit the map based on the route. Okay, I'm going to fit the map based on the route over here. Okay, now over here we are going to make use of the map view ref.current.fit to coordinates, and here it's going to be result.coordinates, and for the options, edge padding like that, right equals to sizes.width multiplied by 0.1, bottom equals to 400, left equals to sizes.width multiplied by 0.1, top equals to sizes.height multiplied by 0.1 as well. Alright, so what we are doing here is basically to make sure the map view that we have over here can fit nicely based on the route. Okay, so after this we need to reposition the navigator. The navigator over here is actually referring to this marker over here. Alright, so if the result.coordinates.length is more than or equals to 2, then I'm going to get the angle of this navigator over here. Alright, so in order to achieve that, I'm going to make use of the utils.calculateAngle function, and all we need to do is to pass the coordinates over like that. Alright, so once we got the angle, I'm going to set the angle to angle like that. Alright, and over here at the end, I'm going to set isReady equals to true. Alright, now let me do a quick check. Fit to coordinates, result coordinates, edge padding. Oh, a bit of typo. Should be width. Alright, save it. Perfect. So as you can see here, the map view actually fit nicely to the based on the route. It actually fit nicely based on the route, and the navigator over here has been set to the correct angle. Alright, great. And just like that, we have completed the map view. Next, we are going to work on the header buttons over here. Alright, so over here, after the render map function, we are going to render another function called render header buttons. Alright, and we are going to create this function over here, function render header buttons. And for this, I'm going to return what we call the React fragment like this. Alright, empty brackets like this is actually what we call React fragments, and the main purpose of having a React fragment is actually quite similar to Vue. The only difference is that React fragment doesn't really interfere with the user interface. Alright, so within the within the React fragment, we are going to render an icon button component. Alright, and the icon is going to be icons.back. For the container style, position is going to be absolute. Top equals to sizes.padding times 2. Left equals to sizes.padding. And since we are having 3 similar buttons, I'm going to include the button style over here. Alright, now let me create the styles over here first. So constant styles equals to stylesheet.create. For the button style, width is going to be 40, height is going to be 40 as well. Border radius is going to be sizes.radius. Align items is going to be center. Justify content is going to be center as well. Border width is going to be 1. Border color is going to be colors.grade2, and background color is going to be white like that. Alright, now for our icon button component, we are going to include the styles.button style over here. Next, for the icon style, width equals to 20, height equals to 20 as well. Tint color equals to colors.grade2. Alright, now save it. Perfect, we have our back button in place, and whenever I click on this button, on press, I would like to simply navigate back to the previous screen. Let me check if I've included navigation over here. Alright, so yep, I think that's all for the back button. Next, we are going to work on these two buttons over here, and in order to achieve that, we need another container view. Give it a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute. Top equals to sizes dot padding times 2. Right equals to sizes dot padding. And within this view, we are going to render two icon buttons actually. Alright, so we have one icon button on the top and another one at the bottom, right? So we have one at the top and another icon button over here. Alright, so for this, the icon is going to be icons.globe. Container style is going to be styles.button_style. For the icon style, width is going to be 20, height is going to be 20, tint color is going to be colors.gray. Alright, next for this, the icon is going to be icons.focus. Container style, margin top is going to be sizes.radius, and we are going to include the button style over here as well. Next for the icon style, width is going to be 20, height is going to be 20, and the tint color is going to be colors.gray, like that. Okay, save it. Perfect. Alright. Okay, so that's all for the header section. Next, we are going to move on to the info section over here. Alright, so go back to your source code. Over here, after the header button, we are going to render a new function called render info. Alright, and I'm going to create this function over here. So function render info. And for this function, I'm going to return a container view with a bit of styling. Position is going to be absolute. Bottom equals to 0. Width is going to be 100%. Alright. And now over here within the container view, we are going to render two things actually. The first is actually the gradient, the linear gradient over here. And the second is the container itself. Alright, so here we have the linear gradient. And over here we have the container itself, info container itself, like that. I'm going to work on the linear gradient later. So for the info container, we need another view with a bit of styling. Alright, so padding equals to sizes.padding. Border top left radius equals to 30. Border top right radius equals to 30 as well. Background color equals to white. Alright, and within this view, the first thing we are going to render is the delivery time over here, which basically consists of the icon on the left and followed by the two text components on the right. Okay, so for the delivery time, we need another view over here with a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row and align items equals to center. Alright, now over here we are going to render the image component where the source is going to be icons.clock. Style will be width 40, height 40, and the tint color is going to be colors.black. Alright, now let me try to save it first. Okay, cool, so we have the container in place and we have the icon in place over here. Next, we need another view over here with a bit of styling. Margin left is going to be sizes.padding. And over here we need two text components. Alright, the first one we are going to render your delivery time. And for the style, color is going to be colors.gray and the fonts will be body 4. Right? Next, for this text component, we are going to render duration followed by minutes, right? And the font will be H3, like that. Alright, save it. Okay, great. The delivery time section is in place. Next, we are going to work on the address section over here. Okay, now over here, let me check. Okay, after the delivery time, we are going to render address section. And for this, we need a container view as well with a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row, align item equals to center, oops, sorry, and margin top equals to sizes.padding. Alright, and over here, same thing, we need an image component as well, where the source is going to be icons.focus, and the style will be width 40, height 40, and the tint color is going to be colors.black. Alright, now save it. Okay, next, all we need to do is to render the text components over here. Alright, so we need a container view first with a bit of styling, where the margin left is going to be sizes.padding, and same thing, we need two text components. The first one is going to be your address with a bit of styling, where the color is going to be gray and the fonts will be body 4. Alright, next we are going to render a dummy address over here. So I'm gonna type in some dummy address that we have here in Kuching. Alright, and the style will be H3. For the fonts it will be H3. Alright, perfect. So after the address section, next we need to work on the delivery man details. Right, so over here, let me check. Alright, so here is the address, and after this it's going to be delivery main details. Alright, so for this we need a touchable opacity like that, give it a bit of styling. Flags direction equals to row, height equals to 70, margin top equals to padding, sizes.padding, border radius equals to sizes.radius, padding horizontal equals to sizes.radius, align item equals to center, justify content equals to center as well, and the background color equals to primary. Alright, now save it first. Okay, cool, so we have the container in place. Next we need to render the profile image, right? So over here we need to render an image component where the source is going to be images.profile like that, and the style will be width 40, height 40, and the border radius equals to 5. Alright, save it. Okay, so the profile image is in place. Don't worry about the location at the moment, it will be fixed later on. Okay, now after the image we need to render the details over here. Alright, so for that we need a container view over here like that with a bit of styling. Flags is going to be 1, and margin left is going to be sizes.radius. Alright, and over here we need two text components. The first one we are going to render by programmers with a bit of styling over here. The color is going to be white, and the fonts will be H3 like that. Alright, next we are going to render delivery man. Okay, same thing for the style. Color is going to be white, and the fonts will be body 4. Alright, now save it. Oops. Okay, so we have the profile in place, we have the details in place. All we need to do now is to work on the image component over here. Alright, so after the detail section, we need another view. Give it a bit of styling. Height equals to 40, width equals to 40, align item equals to center. Oops. Justify content equals to center as well. Border width equals to 1, border radius equals to 5, border color equals to colors.white, and the background color equals to colors.transparent white 1 like that. Okay, save it. Alright, so we have the container in place. All we need to do now is to render the image component. Alright, so over here the source will be icons.call, style will be width 30, and height 30 as well. Alright, now save it. Perfect. And now we are going to work on the last component for the map screen, which is the shadow effect over here. Alright, so scroll to the top after right before the info container section. Over here we are going to render a linear gradient component. For the start prop, it will be x0, y0 as well. For the end prop, it will be x0, y equals to 1. Right, for the colors, it will be an array of colors.transparent followed by colors.light gray 1, like that. Next, for the style, position is going to be absolute, top equals to -20, left equals to 0, right equals to 0, and for the height, if the platform.os equals to iOS, then the height will be 200, or else it will be 50, like that. Okay, save it. Oops, it should be colors and not color. Alright, save it. Now let me navigate back to the map screen. Alright, perfect. And there you have it, we have finally completed all 3 parts of the food delivery app. It's certainly not an easy task, but I'm really happy that we made it to the end. There are still some bonus screens that we will be working on in the next couple of days, but it will not be in the form of a video. The bonus screens will be available for free for anyone who purchased part 1, 2 or 3 of food delivery app. For those of you who supported us along the way, we would like to say thank you from the bottom of our heart, and we promise that we will deliver more quality projects down the road. Alright, so the full source code for this project is available on shop.byprogrammers.com, and I have included the link in the description below. If you liked the video, we'll be more than happy if you can give it a thumbs up, comment, share it to your friends, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I will see you guys in the next video. Happy coding. Peace.